Hey, experts listeners. I want to key you into something that we do very special here at Ops Experts Club, and that's a masterclass. We have a free masterclass called Foundations That Scale. And the great thing about this masterclass is it's for operation professionals who are growing businesses. One of the most dangerous things you can do as an operator is grow businesses on a foundations that's not stable. So in this particular masterclass, we take apart all of the inside pieces of your team, your tech, and how they're using time. And we make sure that you're building on a foundation that's stable. So if you want to check out a great masterclass completely for free, go to foundationsthatscale.com. We'll see you there.
Welcome to the Ops Experts Club with Aaron, Taryn, and Savannah. This podcast will take you behind the scenes of some of the finer details of multi-million-dollar companies. These ops experts have dealt with operations for scaling companies and well-established businesses with anywhere from small to large teams. If you've ever been deep into the details of a major company, then you know how much it takes, and these conversations are just for you. Welcome to the Ops Experts Club podcast.
Love it. Did it cut my woo again? No, I made it through this time?
Yeah.
Yes. Ops experts, you just got to experience my woo. I've been using Crisp. I don't know if you guys have tried this platform. Crisp is a pretty cool platform, Taryn, as far as going to coffee shops or if you have noisy dogs or noisy kids. Crisp is a great sound suppression, except if you make like noises of excitement, it doesn't think that excitement should be allowed in and it tempers it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excitement is no place for a business meeting.
There's no place for it, Taryn Turner. So no clapping, no cheering. That was the best. I'm not gonna reveal who it was who did it the other day, but that was a hilarious L10 where the visionary's like, "Hey, let's just give that person a hand. Everybody give a person a hand." And then he's like, "Why is nobody else clapping?" And it was because Zoom was suppressing everybody's clapping. That was the best.
Oh yeah,
man.
that was awesome.
All these newfangled things, Taryn. All these newfangled things.
Yep. Well, Aaron, I know since we've been cutting the idle chit chat lately, how you been doing?
Ops, I want you guys to know it's important to make sure people stay human, right? Like we're in this world and we can be so efficient and we can always want to make sure everything fits in its own tight little box and stacks neatly. And that's great. Like that's what makes you great at operations. But like, don't forget the human moment. You know, every kickoff of a level 10 meeting, we always lean in for that personal best, business best. And I'd love that, Taryn, because I would never know you had 26 animals living on your ranch if I didn't like have that idle chit chat. So thank you for the human moment.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And ever growing. Is that 28?
I thought my joke was pretty good last week when you showed up a little bit late for a meeting, which never happens. Territory's never late for any meetings. And then you said, I had a little horse emergency. And I thought it was a pretty good joke, knowing that you had just bought some mini horses, to ask you, well, was it an emergency with a little horse or was there a little emergency that included a horse? Did you have other kinds of horse on the property? I thought that was some good, just farm, like barnhouse humor. What'd you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah, it actually took me a minute to catch it. That's how good it was.
It wasn't that good, dude. It wasn't that good. No, that means it wasn't that good. If you had to think about it, you had to pause.
Well, because I was so serious about it, you know,
I wondered if it was too.
It's just a little horse emergency.
I love it. Well, hey, enough idle chit chat. So we were talking about, you know, as we came onto the show today, just some of the gift that we've gotten of getting to work with some great names out there. And one of the people that I've really enjoyed working with most lately, one of our new retainer clients is Michael Jr., who I had just recently met at a mastermind event through Pete Vargas at the Wellspring. And incredible dude, like comedian. If you haven't checked out Michael Jr.'s stuff, any of you out there listening, go check out Michael Jr.'s stuff because the guy is freaking hilarious. And it's not, you don't have to think about it to laugh. Taryn just told everybody you had to think about my jokes to laugh at it. You don't have to think about Michael Jr.'s. He's just funny. He's a funny dude. But the thing that I really like about him is, because we've never had a comedian client before. That's never something that we've had. I guess John Acuff teeters into it, you know, like 9 times New York Times bestseller, but he also is a really freaking funny dude. If you haven't listened to his book or read his book soundtracks, the guy is just funny. But Michael Jr.'s hilarity and his comedy is all wrapped around his mission, he and his wife, Ebony, about marriage, you know, and working people through conflict in marriage. And he really talks a lot about compromise and is that a good thing? And he's got a whole riff he does on, hey, if you got on a bridge that was compromised, would that be a good thing? If you like, what application is the word compromise actually have a good connotation? But then we take it into our relationships and he does this whole riff on it. It's really, really good. Anyway, I've really enjoyed getting to work with him and his team, just good-hearted folks. But, you know, he's been talking a lot about, and there came up in a conversation this past week, just the conversation of communities, you know, and setting up communities, you know, and we do that for a lot of folks. You know, we set up a lot of membership community platforms. And there's a lot of good ones out there. And I think we're in the middle of like 3 or 4 rollouts right now for great names out there. I think John Acuff, Darius Daniels, Brandon Turner, I think all of Natasha Graziano, they're all rolling out some version of a community on an app, and so I thought it would be a good thing for us to talk about today, like pros and cons, what you should be looking for, what's the purpose of a member-based community app where you can be talking to your
Mhm.
people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's really evolved over the last year because at first it was just communities, but now everybody's going to the branded app.
Mhm.
And so you're not only looking for a community, but you're looking for which ones will get you your own branded app to go with it.
Right.
Because the more and more we've realized when you want the results from your community, you want them to get the results that they purchased into more and more realizing that we need to meet them where they are, which is mobily. And, most people are joining mobily. So that branded app is pretty important too, as we've kind of seen that jump up in popularity.
Yeah, and I think, like, let's take even a one click back further than this, because I think even before everybody was jumping on the branded app, it was, hey, let's just hit them on whatever social media platforms they're on, right? Because a lot of people are doing communities within Facebook, right? Like, just kick off a free Facebook group, make it private, give people access once they purchase. And I think that obviously there's a lot of pros to that, right? People are already surfing the social media, they're already on there anyway. So it makes it really nice when you go live, when you do some things that are going to pull attention back towards you. But what we found with clients is a lot of times the danger can be when somebody like Meta begins to pull back controls or begins to
Hmm.
shut things down or begins to like steal your whole customer base because you were building on their free app. And then it feels a lot less sexy to have a community on somebody else's platform, which is why I think a lot of people have moved from trying to do that same kind of experience, but they've taken it and moved it into their own platform, something they control a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure. It was funny watching that change too. Everybody jumping out of Facebook groups at one point and then switching to these community platforms. And then now, yeah, we're back into from the community platforms to the branded apps. And it's great
Yeah.
though, because it's a really great way to meet your audience, your customers where they are, which is the goal of our clients and people who really want to make a difference. Because if you can make a difference, obviously your product and your brand can do better.
Yeah. I love it. So, I mean, some of the ones that we've been building out lately, I think we've got a couple of Kajabi builds right now. Kajabi's really been up in their game with their community and the app that's associated with it. They've got a team that actually they help you develop and deploy it once you built it on their platform, which is a pretty cool feature. I know another one we're building out currently for Brandon Elliott at Credit Council Elite. We're building him out on Circle. You know what I mean, which I think is another great app you hear people talk about, and the opportunity to build a community where people are consuming content on an app based tool that is in a mobile environment, but also someplace you're able to speak to people. And Mighty Networks. I know John Acuff's on Mighty Networks. And I know we helped with that build out. Came alongside of Caleb Peavy and the Mutable team to help build that out for him. So I think that there's a lot of different platforms they do it on, and there's probably pros and cons to each one of them. I know when we looked at Mighty Networks early on for Pedro Adeo back in the day, that one of the benefits was that you can control multiple groups with an admin setting that allows you to, you know, affect different groups in different places. And I think that there's probably pros and cons for each of the platforms. But Taryn, what would you list off as some of the pros of moving to this branded app, moving to this platform where you begin to communicate with your people? Not only are they consuming the content that they've purchased there, but there's also some communication that happens there. What do you feel like are the pros and cons?
Wow. The biggest thing we hear about is push notifications. So say goodbye to paying for text messages, going through all the new legal loopholes of text compliance and everything.
Yeah.
And, now you're able to just push a notification out as long as they've allowed notifications.
I'll talk for a minute, don't you? I love it. Just so you know, though, your crisp is actually beating down, so I couldn't hear any dogs behind you, but you did become a little harder to understand at that point. So, but I think that you're right. Like going live, just letting your people know that you're going live, I think is another great feature within those platforms is especially when it's a scheduled thing, you've got someplace scheduled. Maybe you don't want them to have to go search out a Zoom link or something. They've got to come like, just come back to the app, come back to the app. We're going to go live here, go live at this time. I think that there's some great integrations. If you did still want to do push for some different Zoom links that are locked down to different things, but still have that embedded within your app and people are able to come and consume it in one place instead of trying to chase and follow and do it a bunch of different places. I would say too, one of the great benefits of moving to a platform is upsell. Like, and it's something that I feel like it really played down, but I really like the features of, let's say somebody has bought in, been given a membership level at a certain level, but then that you're able to create a sidebar or someplace on your screen that shows them, oh, there are actually other things that I could purchase here. There are other things that I could engage in here. There are other things I could take advantage of here. And now you've got them in a trapped setting where they're able to consume everything you're giving them, but you're also able to feed them other opportunities, other things they can get involved in, other things they can see. I think that that is a huge benefit. I think also, go ahead, Taryn, if you have something to say to that.
No, I think that's beautiful. Yeah. And it's all down to like your community strategy too, because like you said, there are the options to kind of add to cart and buy new things, but then there's the ability to just be able to provide them so much stuff to extend that lifetime value of them inside your community. So you're not necessarily trying to nickel and dime them for extras, but you're trying to keep the content fresh so that they keep staying month after month after month too, if you're doing that monthly membership model.
Yeah. I think a great thing too, and obviously this is something you need to decide as you're making your decisions, right? But I think it's nice to have your recurring revenue living within whatever platform too that you're operating in. Like if you're kicking off with Kajabi iteration and you're letting people buy from a website that's tied within your Kajabi account to give them access within a Kajabi app that then your recurring revenue is tied within that as a CRM, I think makes it really nice too, because then it brings it all under one hood. Sometimes the danger can be if you get a bunch of different moving pieces out there. I know that there are app builders out there that are really very plug and play. The downside would be if you move to an app that you're building out here, but now you're in third party connections everywhere. Communications coming from your CRM, payments are coming from your
Mm.
payment processor, like access is being granted to come back to this app. But then a lot of those are just being zapped in and out. There's Zapier or Zapier, depending on how you want to pronounce it. But like the access points aren't intuitively grafted in. And I think the downside of that can be there can be breaks in the line. There can be updates that happen in some of those apps that you aren't aware of. And then that there's a breakage, which leads to a bad customer experience, which is the opposite of what any of us want, right? If we have paid the hard earned dollars to win them through ads, to win them through our organics, to get their yes, right? Let's keep them happy. Let's make sure that we're not having something as silly as a tech breakdown that's going to ill affect their customer
Hmm.
journey.
Yeah, for sure. I'll say some of the most important features we've heard, that need to be researched. Number one is making sure it's transactional. Do they have a checkout system tied to them, like you said? Branded app. And can you go live on that branded app
Mm.
as an owner, a coach, whatever it is, because people want to go live on the go now. You're not going to be sitting in your podcast studio going live every single time. You want to go live if you're at the airport and you have something inspirational you want to share with your community. Gamification, is really great. How does it assist in people accomplishing what you want them to accomplish within the community? And tiered programs. So do you have tiered membership availability? Can you have upgrades, a VIP group that gets to see things the other group doesn't get? So there's probably some really top features to look for as you're thinking through like what you want your community to look like and then what these different companies can offer.
And that was something that Dr. Darius employed, right? Was the whole idea of badges, like something where the platform could recognize who it was that was on there and being able to employ badges within, like you're saying, the gamification of this person has done this much, he's fulfilled this much, she's fulfilled this much, and therefore they get this particular badge, which becomes like a moniker of success within this tribal community, which I think is
Hmm.
great. Like, right, because all of us we've probably bought into something and we want to be the best in there. We don't want to just be like a lagger. We want to be the front end of the pack. So how can people know that I'm consuming at this rate? How can people know that I'm taking, like I'm taking each of these tiers up? I think that's why a lot of people go and get more and more like letters on the back of their name, right? It's like
Hmm.
credentialing to know that I know what I'm talking about, especially in these communities. And I think a lot of the communities, the nice thing for you as the owner is if you'll give them some moniker, some way that you're badging them, some way that you're showing their progress, a lot of these communities end up leading up to you're going to bring them into some sort of partner sharing, right? Some sort of rev opportunity. Maybe it's like you're going to make them a coach. Maybe they've attained to a certain level and you want to start like cherry picking the best performers in your group. And now no longer do you have to try and remember who was the person, what was that person's name? And like you're trying to go back and who finished all their homework or did all these on time. It's like, no, no, no. Let the platform be smart enough for you that they're elevating people, badging people based upon their finishing point. And then that helps you as well to ascend them into a spot where maybe do you have some office hours that need to be covered in some of these communities? Do you have an opportunity where you could elevate somebody up into a leader amongst the brand? All those things can be recognized by really simple gamification tools that you can put into the system.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a big one too. How are you up leveling people? Not just to different tiers, but like, really designing that course and that content as well. What's the journey? We just had a meeting about building something out, and it's like, okay, what do you see as your customer journey? Like
Mhm.
inside this platform, where do you want them to go? Where do you want them to end? And how do we build that out to get them there?
So good. Yeah, I think that sometimes if we're not careful, I think that we can want to jump to a project. We deal with a lot of visionaries, right? And all these visionaries are like super quick starts, right? So they get an idea, they want to put it into play today, and is it done by tomorrow? Like that can be a lot of visionaries, like Achilles, is they want it done so quickly. And in some ways, that's helped them be successful, right? They've made offers in the marketplace that have won. They've been first to concept. They've got something out there. The downside can be when you don't think through comprehensively, where do we want this thing to end up? Let's map it a little bit first. I know mapping can sometimes feel boring to a visionary. They're like, man, talking about taking all of the wind out of my sails. We're going to talk about a mapping conversation right now, but I do think, like you're saying, Taryn, we're having some really similar conversations with a client. We're building out this membership portal for with an app, and she's really excited about it. And she's, showing us her examples of other people's that she's seen that she wants included, and she has like her own content that we can repackage and put into it. But the downside is like she hasn't completely baked out. Okay, but to what end? Like, where are we going with this? And what is the trajectory and what is the mapping and how can we ascend them within your product? So Scott on our team, Scott Benham, who's just a brilliant dude, especially in this end of stuff where he actually is helping creators with their mapping and with their intentionality of how they're increasing the value within the brand. It's been really good for him to lean in and say, hey, can I ask you some questions though? Because I've been inside of your current version and I see where it is that you want to go. But I feel like there's some missing pieces that if we could just streamline and show people the line of sight, I think you're going to be able to really grow and get much better traction and get much better ascension from people with your product offering. So I think mapping is a really big deal.
Hmm. Yeah. And then of course, after that, it's how do you continually give them, content and reason to stay? Why are they in your community?
Mhm,
Let's say you do have a courses that they complete. What next? You
mhm.
do want them to go somewhere. You do have your core courses that they complete. And once they complete it, they feel good and successful. And so they stay in the community because it really helped them so far. But then what more are you giving to these people to keep them in every month, every year? And, a lot of that is those live Q&A calls. That's the biggest one we'll see. People feel like they really get access to the visionary with those live Q&A calls, implementing more coaching, like group monthly coaching, just knowledge drops, whenever they come out with new content. Obviously, the people who have already consumed all the old content are going to be able to get that new content as well. So you can't just like set it once and forget it, but there has to be some sort of engagement and activity and resources available for them too.
Yeah, I've seen a couple people do that really well. I think we've talked a little about Dr. Darius. I know he does some things around office hours. I think he calls them something about lunch, doesn't he? As far as like putting
Lunch
in
and
people
learns.
lunch and learns, right? Like office hours essentially coming in. Let's have conversation about what you're growing through. Let's get your questions answered, like you were saying, Taryn. I know that John Acuff has something he does with his guaranteed gold community that's on Mighty Networks, where Gian, who's just an all-star who works on John's team, will do these stand-ups with people every week. And he'll come in and he'll celebrate, even just celebrating with them their wins. Hey, let's get on here and let's just realize for us to stick to our goals, he's the goal guy, right? So he wants to help people like metric out their goals and how do you get to them. And some of that is celebrating the milestones, celebrating the wins. So Gene will do these like once a week where people come in and he'll celebrate wins with them and it'll help them where they're stuck. And like, I think there's been a lot of value found of just creating a centralized place where we can cheer each other on and get some encouragement when we're feeling a little bit down about how our performance is going. So I think I definitely think you're really right. Having some sort of consistent value add, not just a purchase one and done. I bought your course. I got to go watch some videos, but it's something that I can consume whatever it is I purchase, right? Because each one of these gurus has a specialty that they're teaching. That's why people have said yes. That's why people have purchased, but also given them some momentum to keep them on their trajectory. Because otherwise, like you said, you see people fall off, and then that is usually what leads to refund requests. That usually what leads to people stop paying what they started paying is because they've lost the momentum instead of no, let's keep the momentum by doing something pretty simple. And it doesn't have to be you as the visionary. It can be somebody you deputize within your group that can actually keep that momentum going, get people's questions answered, celebrate with them their wins. And, maybe even some of that stuff we talked about the gamification, celebrating the game. Like, how are people doing? How much is in completion? Oh, I see Shirley's completed 75% of the course, and then giving them some attaboys, attagirls.
Yeah. Yeah. Shirley. Good job,
Shirley,
Shirley. Oh
she's
man.
a great gal. And don't call me Shirley. I like her.
Yeah. I mean, that's wonderful. And, if you're looking at community development too, I know the Collab team, like you said, has been, you know, neck deep in these for a little bit now. We've got quite a few projects going on with that, and we'd be happy to help more with, like picking the right platform, doing the research, finding your needs, because like I said, there's so many different platforms. It's really down to what you want out of it to determine the best one, because they're all going to be slightly different. So which one's going to be the best one for your needs, and helping you just, set it up the way you want to see it, something we're doing great at.
Yeah. And we love doing it. I think that especially if you're a visionary or if you are an operator for a visionary and your plate is already full, you're already at max capacity. And then you've got this new great idea of, hey, let's do this community element. And you're like, dear God, like another thing that I'm going to have to go learn and figure out and find somebody that knows. I think that what we really want to be here at the Collab team is a hub for operation solutions, like that you'd be able to come and ask the questions. So on any of the socials you find us on, go ahead and drop in Messenger, drop in one of the IM channels and just ask us, hey, I heard you talking today about Circle, about Mighty Networks, about Kajabi. Can you tell me a little bit more? What are your thoughts on this? We'd love to have conversations, and then we'd love to help you kick it off. We're doing them all the time. This is what we do. I know that's how we started with Natasha Graziano. Was she reached out because I'm in a group with her and Sean Kelly, because we were both on Sean Kelly's podcast, and she had dropped in the group, hey, can anybody help me set up? This is what I want. And so I just reached out and said, hey, I can answer some questions. Let's see if it could be a good fit. And she's just been a gem to work with. And we love working with people that want to continue growing, especially if it's something we feel like we're good at. So timelines, efficiency, getting you where you need to be. I feel like that's what we specialize in. So Taryn, thank you, my man, for another day on Ops Expert Club. I hope that Moose, and do you have another dog now? Is there another dog? When you said dogs were going crazy behind you, what's your other dog?
Winston.
Winston. What kind of dog is Winston?
He's a tiny little 25-pound doodle mix.
I love it, dude. Winston and Moose. Tell the boys I say hello. Ops Experts,
Yes.
thanks for tuning in today. And we'll see you back
Yes.
here next week on Ops Experts Club.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ops Experts Club podcast. New episodes available every week on Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere you listen to podcasts. If you're curious about how some of the biggest names in entrepreneurship have scaled their businesses to the next level, check out some of our best content on this topic by going to foundationsthatscale.com. You can find the link in our bio and do your part to improve as an ops expert.